Now, besties, this is not what I thought it was. This episode sets up, or I guess it doesn't really set up as much as it alludes to what what I think is some of the best of Magnus archives. What we know. This sets up later. This is the episode where I just distinctly remember him like chopping down the tree. Like when I think of this episode, I think of that. And I also, something I really liked about this episode is I remember Johnny Boy being such a little bitch at the end of it. Like, let me pull up the transcripts. Like his line here at the end. Oh, next is crazy. Next is a crazy episode. This is such a good little bit of episodes. I'm actually going insane. I wish my stream was being fucking decent, but what's a girl to do? At the end, Johnny Boy, where was it? Oh god. Head trauma and latent schizophrenia, the ghost's best friends. Aside from excessive indulgence in psychoactive drugs, it seems to me there is simply no better way to make contact with the spirit world. You're such a little bitch. You're such a little bitch, John. That stuck with me. And then, like, not to get personal here for a moment, like, the victim, what's his name? I'm bad at names. Ivo. I really like that through it, he was worried about, like, oh no, like, I'm gonna get schizophrenia, ended up like my dad and my uncle, and that, as someone who has, like, a lot of mental health issues in the family, and, like, that's a fear of mine, like, ending up like relatives, is, like, that's something that just personally really affects me, and I'm like, that's my boy. And I don't know why, but just, like, him cutting down the tree at the end just really sticks with me. Like, I know there's some other, like, good moments, but I just, like, the episode where he burns up, like, knocks down the tree. So, I don't think this deserves to be in Things Are Happening. I might put this here for now, even though I really like that episode. But I don't think it deserves to be in Gnarly. So we'll come back to it. But Burned Out, like, I don't know if it deserves to be in Things Are Happening, or I don't think it deserves to be in Feral. I want to put it in Things Are Happening, I think, because it does Things Are Happening, and I don't think it deserves to be in Gnarly. Yeah. So yeah, this is an episode that particularly means a lot to me. So, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Achoo. Bless me, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that episode particularly to me just means a lot. So, I'm not saying, yeah, it's a good episode, and it sets up a lot later. Okay, Opera, can we not be stupid right now? There we go. Thank you, friend. Jesus. Okay, let's continue before I get off topic even more. Now, A Father's Love. That's a name that you remember. That's one you remember. A Father's Love. Okay, let's read it. Father's Love. Case number 00-20312. Statement of Julia Montrock regarding the actions and motivations of her father, the serial killer Robert Monarch. Whatever it is. Woo! This episode is... Where is it? Where's my... I don't know if I'm gonna put... I might put it in peak later, but this episode is so crazy. I know it. You know it. It's so good. It's so good. Not only do I'm a creative writing major, so sorry, I'm gonna talk about, like, nerdy writing shit, that, like, the voice of the story I think is really interesting, because even though she's the victim in this scenario, like, a lot of the actions don't really happen to her. She just kind of, like, witnesses from afar, and then she later finds out what's happening around her. She's a lot more passive than a lot of the other ones are, but in a really interesting sense. Like, you literally are seeing, like, all this, like, weird shit happening from the eyes of a child, and it's fascinating. And the ending bit is like where all like the hearts start beating at the same time. Like that shit is so crazy good. Let me see if I can find it. All at once the present vanishes. Oh no, let's go a little higher. Oh my gosh, it's so. Yeah, the dead man were the same pendant, and this also sets up. It's interesting. I don't know what the cult is yet. There's some cult. I love cults. Well, obviously I don't love cults, but like as a concept, and it's like one of my favorite podcasts. Like true crime, I guess, is a cults podcast. Like cults as a concepts are really particularly interesting to me. Yeah, so yeah, this is like setting up this cult is just particularly really interesting to me, and I just love the voice in it, and it's just so good. It's so good. Like this is I think it was like an iconic episode, and it should be. I'm trying to think if I have anything else really interesting to say about it. No, let me look at the end. The face made it many attempts to follow up these leads, but we never locate anyone. Remember, just to make statements. Yeah, it's just so good. And I think around this time, if I remember correctly, or at least soon, like Johnny Boy like stops, like not as much, stops pretending that like this shit isn't crazy. And we learn more about it later, and I'll get to when we get to the end. But yeah, I just love how slowly at the first he's like, yeah, this is so stupid. Then he's like, huh, that's weird. Yeah. He's just slowly, yeah, it's just so good. Oh, this shit's so peak. Okay. Vampire Killer. Case number 0100710. Statement of Trevor Herbert regarding his life as a self-proclaimed vampire hunter. This one is very different than the previous one, where it's like I think a really iconic episode, but not because of it's like this episode, and then later I think it might be, I forget which one it is, but it like dives into creature horror in the sense that like it's like there's like the vampire episode and the wear-off episode. Like that's not typically what this Magnus goes over. And I love the idea that we're like viewing it through this like vampire hunter. And like the character of Herbert, like a lot of the victims like don't, I'll bring up when they do, but like a lot of them you're like, okay, whatever. Like this dude like stucks with you, and it has very much main character potential. But I believe at the end we learn he dies, so I feel like he's gonna be important later. I just can't place my finger on it yet. And I also really like it because it's a very different view of vampires than we normally see. Like where it's like the tongue comes out and reach it. It's kind of more like parasite-y, which makes me think like they might be connected to like the hive or whatever. I don't know. I don't know where the originals are, but the file number is listed among multiple information requests from the Institute's government and law enforcement contracts. It may be that they take Mr. Herbert's statement far more seriously than I do. It's just very good. And I think I'm going to put it in gnarly. Because this episode is one that really sticks with me, but I think this is like a good spot for it on the tier. Because I think it's a really iconic episodes, but like the iconic episodes like don't need to be what I consider like the best of the best. But it's one that I really like, and by putting it in gnarly, like maybe not like in the top 3, doesn't mean I think it's still really good. Like quick reminder, all of these are good. I just have my personal biases, and you know, this is my personal ranking. Now, okay, next. Next is Dreamer. Let me read the number of it. Dreamer. Case number 1403. Statement of Antonio Blake regarding his recent dreams about Gertrude Robinson, previous head archivist of the Magnus Institute. This is one that I think I might be more alone on. This episode really hit for me, and me, myself, and I. Like, this episode specifically, I just particularly, something about it it's like not as horror focused in a sense, but just like the idea of this just dude just one day just becoming like connected to like the people of London and becoming like being able to predict the deaths. It's just so fascinating, and it just his like he's like not nonchalant about it, but he's just like, all I know for sure, like he doesn't even really know either, like it's just things like it's like happens to him. And I like we'll end it off. If you do see this in time and read this far, then to be honest, I don't know what else to tell you. Be careful. There's something coming for you, and I don't know what it is, but it's so much worse than anything I can imagine. At the very least, you should look into appointing a successor. Good luck. That it's so weird because it should be so ominous, and it really is, but just like the way he's phrasing it makes it seem so much more casual. And I don't like this shit is just so good to me. Like I'm going feral. Like I think it deserves to be under these, but it's definitely A tier for me. Like I don't even know a good way to phrase it, but that's just one that really stuck with me. And like when I listened to it for the first time, I like texted my girlfriend and I'm like, oh my god, like that's so good and crazy. Like this is one I would like actively want to go back and re-listen to. And especially, well, because spoilers, at the end of season 1, we learn, according to Martin, that it seems like she died by a gunshot. And the fact, we obviously know it's more than that, but there's something coming for you, and I don't know what it is, but it's so much worse than anything I can imagine. Like, when I heard it was a gunshot, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of, okay, I'm spoiling a little bit, but that's so not, it's not anticlimactic, but like, all of this is like ghosts and whatever, so I was kind of like a gunshot, that's kind of lame, but Johnny Boy was like, I'd rather it be ghosts. So I don't know, it's very interesting. So this is a really great peek. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the episode, and I might personally bring it down later. First aid. Why do I know this episode, but I can't think of it at the top of my head. Case number 0121102, statement of Leslie Serac regarding a recent night shift at St. Thomas Hospital, London. This is things are happening! Things are happening! Burned out. Yes. Burned out. Yeah, I think it deserves to be about burned out. This is the episode where he's like he works at the hospital, and there's like the two guys that are like completely burned. And I think that's when we see Jared Key again. And we see some other guy. It's giving kind of culty. Yeah, this is a really good episode. And I remember like particularly at the end, like he was like in front of like the vending machine or something, and we learned later that like everyone in the hospital just like moved out in a line. It's very interesting stuff. Like this is one that's like I wasn't like shaking in my boots, but it really made me think about like what is happening, and I really like that. Yeah, and there's one other thing that Sasha highlighted, however, at blah blah blah, the feed cuts out for less than a second and is replaced for a single frame by a close-up of a human eye staring back through the video feed. Fascinating, I'll tell you. And I know kind of like what's happening a little bit, so I don't know if I want to say it, but that was a really good. Oh, I love foreshadowing. Is that even foreshadowing? I don't know. Kind of. It's what's happening. Let's look up. Off topic. Foreshadowing. Let's see. It's to be a warning or indication of a future event. In a sense. Great episode. I think it deserves where I put it. Next. Alone. I don't remember this one off the top. Let's go to it. Case number 106-1301. Sorry, I'm just going to be kind of quicker here. Statement of Naomi Herman regarding the events following the funeral of her fiancé, Evan Lucas. This one, I remember this episode. This episode, I think, is improved by what comes after it. I really like bits of it. I think I'm gonna put in cool shit because we need something down here. The episode itself wasn't too crazy to me. However, the pieces it lays is really important, but that's not the episode itself. I like that we get Naomi though. That's really fun. I see why no one takes you guys seriously, and I think this also does a lot. Yeah, this episode does a lot of great world building, but this is not one that calls out to me as much as some of the other ones. But if you like it more than I do, I think that's totally valid. But just like, I love the fact that, so she goes to her fiance's funeral and everyone just treats her so weird and is like, oh, we can leave now. So I love how it sets up, but the episode itself isn't my favorite. Not saying it's bad, obviously, none of these are bad. Yeah, so, yeah. What's, in a roof around, or given any fog, given the incredible high winds during the storm of the night, I'm tempted to chalk this one up to a hallucination from stress and trauma. If it wasn't the facts, when she was hit, Miss Hearn was found to be holding a piece of masonry. It appears to be a lump of carved granite with an engraved cross design, the size and style to match what would be conceivably found atop of headstone. Although we have been unable to trace its origin. I don't know much about the Lucases yet. I just know that Elias is like, you can't mess with them. So I think maybe once I learn more about that, maybe it'll go higher on my list. But for where it's now, I think it is. But I like a lot of what this episode sets up. Piecemeal. Uh-oh. Case number 011 2905. Statement of Lee Rental on the murder of his associate Paul Noriega. Ooh. This episode is so crazy, my friends. This is the one where he just kept getting the boxes and he like pieces of himself, and he goes to. There's so much I like about this episode. Start with one. The victim is just like an evil piece of shit, and I love that. Like, I love that. Like, I think I mentioned it previously. Like, I like that not all of the victims are like, oh, ghosts, you know. He's like, I know the law, and if you tell people I killed him, then it's gonna do nothing for you. I stabbed that dude in the throat. Like, okay, Kane, go off. Not really, but you know what I mean. I find that part of it really fascinating, and I think that aspect of it really differentiates it from a lot of the season. Which, and that just is really interesting to me. Did we find out Angela? We learn about Angela. I don't think she's come back yet, or that I remember, but I'm really interested in this character it introduced. So that's really good, a part of it. And then, just like the horror of it is just awful. Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. This episode is so good. Did I not already put it in? I think for me, I can't tell if I like it more than Father's Love or not. I think I'm gonna put it here, but that is so subject to change. Yeah. I don't have much time. I got a box this morning a few hours before I came here. It was a tongue. Like, that is so ominous. And then let's go through to, like, Donovan's bit at the end. They didn't even follow it up because he was violent towards incident staff. An accident. He had to go. Reminded of a somewhat tasteless joke about loose tongues. Jonathan, the man that you are. Yeah. So they couldn't find anyone. Useless ass. Martin slander is so unappreciated, but it's also appreciated because it's funny. Tim has done his best to try to hunt down Mr. Rental and see if we can contact for a follow-up interview or evaluation, but it looks like he disappeared shortly after making the statement. We were able to find his own landlord, though, who said Mr. Rental vanished in early April of 2011, leaving many unpaid bills and no foraging address. He said that when he had gone to clear out the flat, he'd been surprised to find there was no furniture left All that remains in the house, he said, were hundreds and hundreds of small cardboard boxes. Like, this is, I think, one of the episodes where, like, Johnny Boy can't even pretend to, like, be like, oh, ha, ha, this means nothing. Like, that shit is so good and ominous. Oh, I eat it up. It's so good. That's another one I think I could, like, break down. Maybe after the end of it, I'll, like, break down some of my favorite episodes, because I think that actually sounds fun, but not right now. Okay, we must stay focused. Next, Lost John's Cave. This is one that I also really remember. This is one that also stuck with me, so let's read it. Case 0140911, statement of Laura Palmhand, writing experience exploring the 3 county systems caves with her sister, Elena Sanderson. It's funny, I always think the characters are gay, and there's some gay characters in here, which I love. But it's always Jonathan's voice, so when they mention, like, her husband or whatever, I'm like, oh, Slate. So I just, I miss, like, the names sometimes. Anyway, for focus. Lost John's Cave, I really like this episode. I think it's not one of my favorites, but this, like, the idea of it to me is really interesting. And at the end, like, let's go to the end. Da-da-da-da. Because it's like, oh, she was just definitely crazy. Like, she's like, there's so much conviction, but there's so many details provably false. They tell and she says, there's also the matter of the recording. She does not remember the statement at all, but Miss Palmer took a camera with her into the cave system. It was never claimed back to the CRO after rescue, and Tim managed, good job, Tim, to gain access to the copy footage. Best not to ask how, I think. Most of it is mundane footage of Mrs. Popham and her sister claim timing, which seemed to match her statement, but the last recording is somewhat alarming. The timestamp puts at the past 2 o'clock in the morning of June 15th. It's completely black, so whether this because it's in a pitch dark cave or simply because the lens cap was unclear, the audio is what concerns me. Yeah, that. Take her, not me. Take her, not me. Take her, not me. Oh, like, the first time I heard that, I remember so specifically. I was on the bus, and I'm like, that is awful. So yeah, this episode is so good. Where did I put it up already? I don't even know where to put it. I want to put it in gnarly, I think. I'm gonna put it in gnarly, because that voice recording, oh, it's so sick and twisted. And this is also the one where the main character is kind of an asshole. She's like, I don't want to be stuck with my sister forever, and at the end, she's like, take her, not, oh, so good. So good. Okay, this next one is about to be a hot take. Let's go. Focus. Arachnophobia. Case number 0150409. Statement of Carlos Fittery regarding his arachnophobia and its manifestations. This episode is, I think, my least favorite of the season. This is the only one where I was watching it and I was like, I don't care. Like, and I wanted to skip it. If it ends off in a good spot, and I'll go over that in a second, but I want to explain my first. I think the reason I don't love this episode as much as the rest is because, like, for example, the previous episodes, like, this dude was, like, getting his fingers in boxes, and, like, she, like, lost her sister in this dark cave, and then he was like, oh, there's little spiders showing up everywhere. And while I acknowledge that that's, like, his worst fear, and at the end of it, his worst fear came to pass, and that's awful, I just think, like, I think it would have been better suited at the start of the season. I think, like, being around mid-season kind of, I think I would have liked it more if it was in a different spot. I remember at the end we got a big reveal, though, and I really liked that. Let's go back and look. Yeah, Lala's Ghost Spiders. This is awful, though. Like, they found him in foreign organic materials blocking his throat. And this is a stupid one where I'm like, well, now I understand more, but John was like, oh yeah, that's, so there's likely a perfectly natural explanation for the fact his body was completely encased in web. Okay, King, sure. Like, this is one where you're like, Jonathan, just shut up. But you get it now. I get you, Johnny boy. I see your insecurities. Did someone else come in? I remember, like, something really fun happening at the end. Maybe it was just that. But yeah, this is just my least favorite episode. It just kind of didn't hit as much for me. And I think it's maybe because I'm not super afraid of spiders, but I understand why it's good. It's just one of my least favorite tales. Followed up by a banger episode. Okay, The Bone Turner's Tale. Case number 9991006. Statement of Sebastian Adokia. I forget the names. Sorry, besties. I'm not that girl. Oh no, did my stream cut out? No, okay. I was really worried it did for a second. Lame. Now, this one... Ooh. This one's a really good one. So this is the one where he's like the librarian and he has his old friend, but they kind of moved on from each other. Oh, and we even get Elias this episode. Oh, I forgot about that. This is the one where it's like, okay, if you hear anything about the Lucases, then you need to like bug off. And also we learned that Martin's gone. Yeah, this is a great episode. Things are happening! I think that deserves to be in the top of things are happening. Or maybe it's a feral one. I think I'll put it on top of things are happening for now. Yeah, this one, just like the horror of it, like the bones twisting and like the mom being so pissed at him at the end, and like the books bleeding. Oh, just so good. And I forgot we even get some like Elias, and we learn that he has a bit of a tummy ache. Poor little guy. Yeah, and then he was found dead, and his body was all mangled. Oh, it was a closed casket funeral. Crazy ending to that. Yeah, this is where Johnny Boy is like no longer being like, haha, so not real. Like, I love the episodes where he can't even like fake explain it away. It's so good. Oh, I don't want to focus on that one too long. It's just so good. The Man Upstairs. This one, I already know where I'm going at. Gnarly. Top of gnarly. Yeah. I recognize it. The Man Upstairs. Case number 0081212. Statement of Christoph Rudenko regarding his interactions with his first floor resident of Wellbook House, Mansworth. Yeah, this is the one where he has the weird neighbor, and he stinks, and he's like, okay, weirdo, but then he was banging all the time. This one was so fascinating for me to listen to, because I just kept thinking like, oh, which one is it? If you know, you know. Yeah, and like the ending of it is just gross. Like, Spotify has comments now for some reason, which is hype. Everyone's like, I can never eat meat again, and I'm like, that's fair, because this is the one where it ends and he has like all of like the meat hung up all over. So gnarly. At the end of this all, we still don't answer one question. Where was he getting the meat? I don't know why, but it bothers me. Johnny, it should. My dear Johnny boy, it should bother you. Oh, yeah, top of gnarly for sure. This one I don't have too much interesting to say about it, besides the fact that it's such a good, crazy reveal at the end, and even with like the meat blob, like that's not where I expected him to be like a murderer or whatever. But like, yeah, that one's really good. That one's really good. Let's continue. Oh shit. 19 and 20. We might be in peak territory, perhaps. Perhaps. I remember specifically, I was like at my college, and I was like listening to it before class starts. Oh, so good. Okay, restart. Confession number 1. Confession 1. Case number 0113005. Statement of Father Edwin Burroughs regarding his claimed demonic possession. To be for real, I kind of forget where confession ends and the next one begins, because if you guys don't remember, this is the one with the priest that we saw previously in, was it Burnt Out? Was it Burnt Out? I think it was Burnt Out. Yeah. And we get him. We call him back later, and now this is so crazy. When he goes, oh, what's the line? I don't know if we'll get to the cannibalism, of course. What do you mean we'll get to that? The tone of voice in this one is so crazy, good, and interesting. I love that he is like so meek and meager, even though like we later find out what he did. It's so fascinating, and it's so tragic. Let's look where this one ends. Because this is the one where it kind of got cut off and they lost the page. And that's also really interesting because we learned that someone was like looking into it. Speak for me. I heard the sound car engines. I was feeling it was gone. Yeah, so good. Deserved only one parter. I don't even know where to put them. I kind of want to put it in peak because I kind of just count them as the same. This shit, I think, is honestly, this might be our first peak. This is so crazy good. Yeah, and it's just awful. And when the demon was like, it's weird because I don't think it's demons, but like the entity or whatever was like, I'm sorry, it wants your faith. Like, that is just so tragic, and how it like makes him, it just kind of destroys him and destroys what's the most important things, and it's like points out his quote-unquote sins. It's so fascinating to me. And I also like that the bad guy in this one, unlike a lot of the other ones, it seems like, okay, you found my book or whatever, so now I'm gonna haunt you. This one feels so targeted and interesting, and I really appreciate that. I'll read, we kind of discussed it already because I kind of just put it into one, but case number 0113005, B, continuation of the statement of Father Edmund Burroughs regarding his claimed demonic oppression. La la la. I think I'm gonna put that in peak. I think that's so deserved. Yeah, so good. So good. Let's continue. Free Fall. Case number 002201, statement of Moira Kelly regarding the dismissal of her son Robert. This is one that I kind of spaced out a little bit listening to it, so I think it's probably going to go in bottom for me, but that does not mean that it's bad. I think, where is it? Can't I find it? There we are. Just comparatively, I think is one of the more least interesting ones, but I feel like Robert is going to come back. My God. Oh, at the end we get the Martin, like that was a crazy way to end it off, and I kind of want to put it higher actually just because of that. Oh, maybe I'll put it at the end of Things Are Happening just because of that, because that I think makes up for the episode, because the episode was good, it just wasn't anything crazy, just her mom and her son got eaten by the sky, and I think that's so fascinating, that description of it. And at the end he's like, before I address the central point of the statement, namely the question of whether the sky can eat people, there's a few other facts that need to be addressed. Yeah, I think it deserves to be at the end of Things Are Happening, purely because of that ending. Like that was so good. Maybe I'll put it back. I don't know. We'll feel it out. We'll see what gets filled. But I don't have too much to say about the interesting besides that episode. Besides the end was really good. Did I close Spotify? My bad. Let me go back. But yeah, what are you guys' favorite? Oh, here, perfect. I don't have to do some. We're on the halfway mark, which is good because I don't want to sit and do this all day, but I'm determined to get it all done today. So, okay, perfect. We're on episode 22. 22 Colony. Case number 0161203, statement of Martin Blackwood, archival assistant at the Magnus. This is Martin's episode. So good. I think out of Martin's episode and Sarah's episode, I think we're for Sarah's, but obviously Martin's is still really good too. I think I think it does, I think it has to be, and things are happening. I think I'm gonna put Freefall back here because I don't like one little bit at the end. I think shouldn't give away from the yeah. Where did I'm going feral? No, I kind of want to put it here. I really like Martin episode. I love Martin. He's so great. I love that we get to kind of hear him more, and I really like his banter with let's kind of go through it a little bit. Martin, are you sure? I just want to make sure about what happened to me. I mean, it's what we do. No, I mean, we do la la la. It's so good. And we learn about, this is when we keep building back off of, was it Squirm? Yeah, so I love the overarching story. So good. So delicious. But yeah, love Martin. His episode is so crazy, and like this is like leads to like the overarching story in season 1. So yeah, super crazy good. This next episode didn't hit me as hard either, I think, if I'm remembering what it is. Schartzwald, case number 8163-103, statement of Aberrant von Closen regarding a discovered tomb in his near estate in the Black Forest. This is one, I really liked it because this is an older one, because it was meant for like, according, like, we learned that's like how kind of old the Institute is, and I really like that. And we kind of hear some more Martin at the end. Yeah, super interesting. But like, actually, I did really like learning about like kind of like the folk tales, and like his like he had no eyes. So there was some really great parts of this episode, but it's not one of my favorites. I think I'm gonna put it in Boy Oh Boy. I think it deserves to be there. I think that's fair. But yeah, good episode, just not one of my favorites, and not one that I really have anything interesting to say. But it is still good. Strange music. Case number 0051701, statement of Leanne Denkin regarding an antique calliope. Can I say it right? They literally talked about it in the episode. Like the Greek goddess she possessed briefly in August 2004. I like, in this episode we get Sarah, and that little bit of her and Johnny Boy is really charming. And you kind of learn that like Sasha, oh my god, I was calling her Sarah, I'm sorry, my bestie, my love. If they're working at the Magnus Institute, I would hope so. Johnny, you're such a little bitch. It's okay though, I kind of love you. Calliope. Calliope. Anyway, super fun. I appreciate this episode like doing something different with like the clowns and the dolls. But it just didn't, kind of like the spider episode, it just didn't hit as much for me. I think I'm gonna put it, yeah, I think I'm gonna put it down here. I don't think it was a bad episode, and I really love the Sasha introduction. I don't think she's been properly talked until now, or at least not a lot. But just like overall, the episode didn't interest me too much. Just like the story, the bit of it, you know. But yeah, it's Be Still for There Is Strange Music. That really interests me. I just don't know what to do with that yet. So I think it's gonna come back at some point, and I might have a greater appreciation later. And like, but I don't have anything much for it yet. But I do appreciate it. Now, Growing Dark. I feel like I'm supposed to. I recognize it, but I can't place my finger on it what it is yet. So let's look at, maybe I'll recognize it then. Case number 015904, statement of Mark Billingham regarding his events culminating in his visit to Hither Green Chapel. Oh, was this the Natalie? Was it the cult, the continuation of the cult? Yes. This is a good episode, and I love the continuation of the cult storyline. Like, this episode is just so tragic, because, like, Natalie seemed like this nice enough person, and she just gets, like, totally enveloped in this cult. and at the end it's just so creepy. Let me go to, I forget what Jonathan says at the end, but yeah, like the ending of it's so interesting. And the symbol upon the piece of paper doesn't receive a stylized close eye. Yeah, so this calls back to Father's Love. I think out of the two, though, Father's Love is better, but I do love the continuation of this episode. It's not one of my favorites, though. I think I'm gonna put it in probably top of Boy Oh Boy, but still, like, that poor Natalie, and just so tragic and sad kind of what happened. And I love that they have, like, actually, like, a really good couple here. And, like, a whole, like I said, I just moved into an apartment, so, like, all, like, the moving disputes, yeah. I don't have anything too crazy, but I love the continuation of this cult. I want to learn more about it. Like, the eye, like, that's really, really interesting. But, yeah, this is definitely one where it, like, puts the puzzle pieces together, you know. And I love that. Oh, God, where are we at? Growing Dark, a distortion. I don't remember this one off the top of my head either. Case number 10, oh my gosh, yeah, 1060204. Statement of Sasha James. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Sasha. This is assistant archivist at the Magnus Institute, London, regarding a series of paranormal sightings. Yes, I love Sasha's episode a lot. Like, the man and, like, her being followed, like, that really stuck with me. Let me put it up. I'm gonna put it. I think I like it more than Dreamer, even though I love Dreamer. I'm gonna put it. I'm Going Feral, because that episode was just really particularly interesting to me. And like, this man is like, I don't care if you live or die, and he just like gets her at the end, and it's a continue. Oh, this episode is so crazy, and I really like Sasha. Timothy Hodge. Yeah, this was the dude. We find Timothy Hodge's like wallet or something, and that was the dude from the Square episode. Yeah, this episode's great. And we find out that we can fight them through CO2. That's my girl Sasha, okay? Even though I called her Sarah. Okay, I'm just a girl. Yeah, love that episode a lot. It was a really important episode, I think. And it's really interesting when we get to hear the perspectives of the other, like, archivists. Because I love Johnny Boy, and I love that he narrates most of it. But I love when we get to hear the others, and especially, like, the other archivist experiences. Because they kind of have more of experience than just, like, the normal average person would with this. And I think that, I don't think I'd like it if it was every episode, but I like that that happens sometimes. Because I like, it makes all the stories and feel more impactful when the things are actually happening to them, like the consequences. We love when stories have consequences, unfortunately, right? Okay. Next, a sturdy lock. Case number 0032408. Statement of Paul Mackenzie repeated nocturnal intrusions into his home. This episode is what is it? It's a sturdy lock. This is one that didn't stick with me as much either, but I do like the main character. He's like, I'm not gonna be put in a home. I don't care. It's just like, but yeah, this is the one that didn't stick with me as much. Oh god, this song is kind of spooky. So I think I'm gonna put it in cool shit. I think I'm gonna honestly put it. Probably here. This one just didn't stick with me as much. I feel like I should, but I literally just can't remember much about it. I just remember liking that he was like, I don't want to be put in a home and la la la. But yeah, I don't even remember too much about it, so it's probably not one of my favorite episodes. But I do. Yeah, it's just kind of tragic. Like, this old man obviously struggling, and that just personally hits for me. But nothing too crazy here. I want to believe Mr. Mackenzie. I really do. I'm not entirely made of stone. I like that we get to see also kind of like Jonathan's heart a little bit here. And I am apt to be moved by the plea of a scared old man as much as anybody. I mean, dementia is, of course, the most likely explanation, and he admits to himself that he has no proof of any yet parts of me wants me to believe him. Perhaps his job is making me sentimental. And then he unfortunately dies later. Um, yeah, I like that we get to see more of Johnny Boy, and I like that the victim's very like, he's like, I he just has a fire in him we don't see in a lot of the other victims, and I really like that. But besides that, I don't have too much to say about it. Skin tight. Uh-oh. I think case number 1 case number 0161704, statement of Melanie King regarding events at the abandoned Cambridge Military Hospital during filming in January 2015. Oh no, it's an influencer. um this one I think probably will go in boy oh boy for me. um oh gosh, where's I feel bad. I'm not even remembering what the previous ones were about.